Hello, my friends from Our Lady of Sorrows. My name is John O'Leary. I have the great opportunity, thanks to Father Mark and Principal Whitfield and all the other leaders, Mr. McCormick, among others, to have an opportunity today in church to speak to you a bit about my story, a bit about my faith journey. But more than all of that, I get the opportunity to hang out with you ladies, hang out with you gentlemen, hang out with you students to celebrate your faith, to celebrate your story, to celebrate our journey together, and to celebrate our mutual faith. Catholic Schools Week, we are in the middle of it, and we are fired up by it as we walk in faith, as we walk in light together. But that's not always easy. So I'm going to ask you a question as we begin today, students. Whether you are in first grade, I see you, or you are a teacher, a parent, or someone maybe in between. Have you ever been picked on? Have you ever been bullied? Has anyone ever said anything that was kind of derogatory or kind of mean to you? Has that ever happened to you? Put your hand up if it has. Okay, the people who don't have their hands up right now are lying. That doesn't mean they're bad people, doesn't mean they're bad students, it doesn't even mean they're a bad parent or teacher, but it does mean they're lying. Because what I know to be true after 40 years or so of living and going through grade school and middle school and high school and on to college and traveling the world now as a speaker is part of life is we have, unfortunately, the experience of being bullied and beat down and put down by those among us and those around us. And yet, leaders, friends, we are called to walk in light. We are called not only to walk in light, but to be light, to be life, to be Christ for those who are starving for it. For me, grade school, I went to a Catholic school in St. Louis, Missouri called St. Clement. Grade school was pretty good. We'll come back to that in a moment. But in high school, for me, is when some of the bullying began. My junior year, I'm this dude up here on the screen. Life is okay. You know, it's all right, man. It is what it is. But there was this one guy in our school that started to make fun of me. He was tough. He was big. He was muscular. He looked a little bit, students, like this guy, Justin Bieber. Okay, he looked a little bit like Justin Bieber working out with the shirt off. That's kind of what this guy resembled. He's this big, tough football player, and this big, tough guy is making fun of my hands. Okay, I got burned when I was a kid. I'll tell you that story in a moment. This guy knows what happened to me, but instead of really showing compassion and showing love and building a bridge of forgiveness and light, he decides to make fun of my hands and decides to make fun of my scars, decides to make fun of my body. And deep down, students, it's killing me. Okay, I act like it's not. I act like I'm all tough and all that. But the reality is it's breaking me down. And no one does anything. No one is light. No one is life. No one is love. No one is Christ. No one stands up and does the right thing. Not my classmates. Not my friends. Teachers. Not my teachers. Not the parents who knew what was going on. Nobody. This guy's too popular, so they don't mess with him. It goes on week after week after week, and then month after month, and it is breaking me down. It is creating a hole in my heart, and then it changes. In history class, junior year, period 7, when the smallest guy in our entire school decides to stand up and do the right thing, okay? This guy's name was Jason, but he looked a lot more, not like a Jason, but like Flat Stanley. So Flat Stanley, in the middle of history class, stands up. He walks back to the big, tough guy. And in the middle of class, students, it is on. Okay? It is showtime. The bell is rung. Here we go. History teachers at the board. These two guys are face to face. One guy is seated, but he's a giant. One guy is standing, but he's a little guy. And in the middle of class, the little man points down and says, "Dude! Dude, shut up. Shut up. You have no idea what this kid's been through." And then he says, students, "Shut up." When the big dude heard what the little guy said, what do you think the big guy said in response? What do you think he did? Okay, that's right. I heard it right there from the third graders. He punched him. That's what I would have thought too. But instead, what he did is what we all do when we see evidence of courage around us. You take notice of it. You sit up. You recognize it for being something different than what you're used to. This big, tough bully never said anything negative, students, to me or to anybody else in our entire school. Because one day, one student, the least among us, which by the way our faith celebrates, it holds that piece up high, the least among us decides to stand up and do the right thing, to be light, to walk in light, and in doing so changes not only his life. Our goal in Christianity and Catholicism is not only for like individual salvation, like I'm okay, man, life is good in my world. No, it is to guide and to serve and to lead and to love as many people as we can forward with us. During Catholic School Week, let's celebrate that truth. Let's walk in light. Let's make a difference together. And so my friends, students, teachers, family, I'm thrilled to spend a little bit of time with you, sharing with you my story right now, what happened to me as a kid, how God worked through it, and what it means for all of us. Okay, looking back at your own story. How many of you have ever done anything that you now realize was a big mistake? 3 of you. Okay. I don't believe that. I know you look beautiful today in class, but come on. You are not all angels. We all make mistakes all the time, which is another thing which is beautiful about our faith is we don't try to save ourselves. We have Jesus Christ to save us. This is a great gift in our own journey. You can't fall far enough away that he won't find you and love you back. Whether you are in first grade, kindergarten, second grade, or beyond, he wants you back. He wants to love you forward. He wants to walk in light with you. Well, when I was in 4th grade, where are the 4th graders? Put your hands up real quick. God, you guys, I can see you right now. Where are the 4th graders? Put your hands up. All right, 4th graders, there you are. 4th graders, I'm your age. I see kids in my neighborhood playing with fire and gasoline. What these kids would do is they would sprinkle gasoline on a sidewalk, strike a match, stand back 2 feet, throw the match on top, and the gasoline would dance to life. When you're 9 and you see 6th graders doing this, we're the 6th graders, I'm looking up to you guys. I want to be just like you. And I figure if you can do it, what's the next sentence, students? So can I. So can I. So that weekend, it is on. The house is mine. My siblings are sleeping. My mom and dad are at work. I'm walking into the garage. You know where I'm going. Where am I going? That's right. Go over to the can of gasoline, bend down next to it, try to pour a little bit of gasoline on top of a burning piece of paper. Is this a good idea, students? Yes or no? Yell it out. That's horrible. But I was watching someone else do this. I was watching a group of other kids do this, and I figured I could do it too. Be aware of this. 2 things. Number 1, it matters who you're following. So make sure you are following the right leader. Make sure you are following the right voice. Make sure you're with the right crowd. That's part of it. But the second thing is this: 6th graders and 8th graders and 3rd graders and teachers and parents and all of us. People are watching us. They're watching us in the classroom. They're watching us in the carpool line. They're watching us right now in church. Give them an example that is worthy. Give them an example of light in a community that is too frequently full of darkness. That weekend, I'm doing the wrong stuff. Over the can of gasoline, before the liquid comes out. What comes out first, students? Before the gasoline comes out, what came out first? Not fire. Fumes. The fumes came out first. It created a massive explosion. Split that can of gasoline in 2. That's the real picture. Split it in 2. Picked me up, 9 years old, and launches me 20 feet against the far side of the garage. When we were little, boys and girls, we were taught and trained what to do when we were on fire. What are we supposed to do? Yes. Stop, drop, and roll. Very good class. But what do you actually do if you're really scared and you find yourself on fire sometimes? You panic. You're in pain. You're full of fear, not faith. You're full of fear. And you run. That day, my training went out the window. I ran for my life. It changed my journey. One moment, I'm happy and healthy. Look at the picture. extremely good looking little guy, and then it all changed. This next picture is going to be hard to look at, okay? This is the picture of the garage, and I want to show you a couple pictures of what happened in that room, but also the people who saved me going forward, okay? So here we go. This is a picture of my brother, the rug that I stood on. That's the rug I stood on, screaming and burning and begging and praying for a hero in the front hall of my house, screaming and praying and looking up saying, God, I can't do this by myself. I can't do this by myself. I need a hero. I need a savior. And that's when I saw my brother Jim racing toward me. Jim was 17, I was 9. How many of you have an older brother or sister in your lives? Raise your hand if you do. Okay. Are they always nice to you? Sometimes not so much. My brother Jim was almost never nice to me. So that day, students, in this room, on that rug, looking up, praying for heroes, thinking and saying, God, I'll take anybody. I'll take anybody. When I see him, my next thought was, anybody else, not this dude, not him, come on, please. And yet student leaders, friends, Our Lady of Sorrows friends and faculty and parents, Father Mark, all of us, this is his day to change, to become a better version of himself, to become who Christ calls him to be, to step and to walk in light with him. This is his day to change. What Jim does is he picks up a rug, he beats down the flames. After swinging down the rug like this a couple times, he eventually drops the rug and he pulls back because he touched something, not because he got burned. But then he does something really cool. He bends back down, he picks the rug back up, he comes back over to me, he swings down a third and a fourth and a fifth and a sixth time until he knocks down those flames, wraps me in this rug, carries me outside and saves my life. 1987, long time ago, this boy was the lifesaver of the year for the state of Missouri. I know Missouri is not as big as Michigan, but it's a pretty big state. I think there's 5 million people or so that live here. And out of all 5 million, Jim, a boy, was a lifesaver of the year because he chose to walk in light. He chose to make it not about himself. That was his tool, but he was not alone. He had 2 other heroes in the front yard with him. I want to show you their pictures real quick, boys and girls. Here's the first one. That's my sister Amy. I'm in the front yard after Jim saves my life. I'm out there. I'm burned and I'm scared and I'm sad and I'm crying and I'm cold because it's wintertime, it's snowing outside, and this little girl comes over to me. She puts her arms around me like this and she says to me, John, everything's okay. Everything's fine. Have faith and fight. Everything's okay. And at that moment, I was not sure at all that everything was going to be okay. I was looking at my hands. I was looking at my body. I was scared of my mom and dad's reaction. I saw the house on fire. I was really, really, really full of so much fear and sadness and anguish. And overhearing this conversation with my sister saying it's going to be okay and me saying no, it's not going to be okay, was my other sister. This one's not in 6th grade or in 4th grade like I was. This one's in 2nd grade. Where are the 2nd graders? Raise your hands right now. Awesome. Look at all you guys. Look at all you ladies. Beautiful. This girl is your age. She hears the conversation happening in the front yard. She goes into my house, my mom and dad's house. She goes into the kitchen. She comes back outside, and this little girl throws a cup of water right onto my face. What is she doing here? She trying to make me mad by throwing water in my face? What do you think? She's trying to put out the fire. It's exactly right. You guys got it right. After she throws that first cup of water in my face, she goes right back into the house. And what you should know about the house is it is scary right now because the lights have been shut off. The smoke from the garage and the kitchen are billowing through the whole house. And this little girl goes back in a second time, drops to her hands and knees, crawls through the front hall, back into the family room, all the way into the kitchen, fills up a second cup of water, comes back outside, and whoop, throws it right into my face. And then student leaders. This little girl goes back into the house a third and the final time. It's written in Scripture that no greater love is this than to be willing to lay down your life for one's friends. That is our calling each day during Catholic School Week, but also our calling each day of our life afterwards, to make our lives a living example to support and to serve and to love and to elevate and to be light to a community that longs for it. No greater love is this than to be willing to lay down our life for someone else. That's what she's willing to do here. We think it's a miracle that she does not have to, because this little girl comes safely through that heat, through that fear, through that smoke 3 times, throwing 3 cups of water right into my face. You'll notice I am burned from my neck to my toes, but not my face. The doctors credit her with saving my face, which was a really big deal, not only for my face, but that's where all the skin from my entire body came. It's called a donor site. Your science teachers can talk about it later on today if they choose. All my skin from my entire body came from my scalp. My sister Susan saved my life, and so did my sister Amy, and so did my brother Jim, and so did Jesus Christ working through them. This is the power of our faith in action. I'm going to show you a picture next that's going to be really difficult to look at. You saw the pictures earlier of me with the bangs in front of the Christmas tree. Well, that was my life. But then my life changed. And I know as I look around church today that a lot of you have been affected and impacted by change. Some very positive, but others, we're struggling. We've lost a parent, or our parents are fighting a lot, or we have a sick grandparent, we have a sick sibling. We're nervous about next year. We're struggling in school or in the classroom with friends, whatever it may be. We've all been through some storms. You're not alone, and God's walking with you. But this picture you're about to see will be hard to look at, so you may want to shut your eyes. In particular, if you're younger, you may want to shut your eyes, because I found myself as a 4th grader on my back with burns on 100% of my body. Students and leaders, Our Lady of Sorrows, that's me. That's me laying there, and I'm dying in the emergency room. I remember very clearly looking up at the bright light, okay? The light is coming down on me, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. My dad is what? Oh, he's going to be so mad. He's going to kill you. I knew my father was going to be furious. I hear his voice down the hall. He's yelling at some poor nurse. Where is my boy, John? Ooh, I'm scared. This nurse brings my dad back into this room. He walks over to me. He points down and he says to me very firmly, John, look at me when I'm talking to you. So I look up at my old dad, and he was old. He was 41, very old. And I remember thinking, he's going to be so mad right here. He points down and listen to what he says, students. Listen. John, I have never been so, what's the word? Yell it out. Angry, scared, mad, disappointed. Those are all great guesses. The word my dad chose to use that day. I have never been so proud of anybody in my entire life. And my little buddy today, this morning, I am just proud to be your dad. And then he says, I love you. I love you. I love you. And as a child on my back, with no clothes on, with no skin on, with no chance really, I remember thinking, oh my gosh. Nobody told my dad what happened. He doesn't know. What do you think, students? Does my dad know what happened? Yes or no? Yell it out. I'm sorry, yes or no? Some say yes, some say no. Teachers, parents, Father Mark, what do you think? Does dad know? Yes. Yes, dad knows. And he knows the power of forgiveness, the power of offering some grace, the power of offering some light and some love into a community, into a son's life who longs for it. How many of you have ever heard of the story of the prodigal son? Put your hands up. 4 of you. Okay. You've never heard the story of the prodigal son. Father, we got to work on this one a little bit. Teachers, come on, let's talk about it. When you unpack that story, also share with them the book, The Return of the Prodigal Son by Henry Nouwen. Henry Nouwen shares the story, of course, from Scripture about the prodigal son. He does it, though, by talking about a picture that Rembrandt painted right before he died, a picture that I have actually hanging up in my office, a picture that reminds me of the power of forgiveness, the gift of grace, the promise of salvation. It's the story of a boy who makes mistakes and a father who doesn't care, a father who just wants his boy back. And my friends, whatever grade you're in, whatever you've done, that's our story. That no matter how far we fall, he wants us home. He wants to love us back. He's going to love us, and he's going to throw a party for us. But you got to return home. You got to crave it. Part of my hope today is that you crave that embrace, that you crave that love, that you crave to walk in that light. Well, my dad gave me that light, and my mom walked in his shadow right behind him. She comes over to me. She takes my right hand in hers, and she says to me, "I love you." And I say, "Mom, will you knock it off with the love?" And I look at her and I say, "Mama, am I going to die? Am I going to die?" And this lady, my mom, looks back at me and she says, "Baby, do you want to die? Your choice, not mine." Now, when I asked her that question, students and teachers and parents and father, I wasn't really looking for her honest answer on this one. I was looking for her to tell me it was going to be okay. I wanted her to kind of pat me on the back and say, "Baby, you're fine." But instead, my mom reminded me of the gift of free will, of free choice. You get to decide, by the way, at the end of the day, whether you walk in light or darkness. No one gets to tell you that. You get to choose it. My mother is begging me to make this decision right now in that hospital room on January 17th, 1987. And I look up at her and I say, "Mama, I do not want to die. I want to live." And her response was, "Good. Then look at me. Take the hand of God. Walk the journey with him. And you fight, John, like you have never fought before." She said, "Your father and I will be with you every step along the way. But John, take Jesus' hand, walk the journey with him, and fight like you never fought before." And so, my friends, Our Lady of Sorrows leaders, students, faculty, staff, friends, parents, that's the choice we get to make each day of our lives as we walk forward in light together. So I'm going to pause here in a moment. I'm going to have you reflect on this question that's going to pop up on the screen. Let me step out of the way. I want you to think for a moment about how God has, in his incredible mercy and kindness and generosity, how has he blessed you? What has he done for you? How has he shown up in your walk? How has he shown up in your life? What gifts have you received? What talents have you received? How about the air in your lungs? How about, put your hand right now against your heart. Students, feel it. How about that beating heart? How about the miracle of your life? How about the promise of your faith? Look around church today. Look at the beautiful space around you. How about the architects and the builders who built this? Look at the teachers who've dedicated their lives to you, or the parents that you might return home to later on today who are investing in Catholic education for you. How has God blessed you? And as you make that list, I ask you also to make a list of people who have blessed you. You're going to need one in particular. I want you to come up with one name. The name of one individual, one teacher, one pastor, one priest, one friend, maybe it's a sister or a brother or a coach, one person. And for me, that one person, I could talk about either my mom and dad or dad all day long, but the one I'm going to talk about briefly here is my mom. My mom was not easy on me, far from it. But what she taught me is I get to choose the path forward. I get to choose to walk in light or not. So maybe the best story for my mother was this one. I'm home from the hospital after 5 months of struggling at home, in a wheelchair, at the kitchen table. The doorbell rings. My mother gets up. She answers the door. She brings a person into our house. Immediately, I recognize her voice. It's Mrs. Bartello. Mrs. Bartello is our piano teacher. In other words, she's like Mrs. Shabrinsky, okay? So I don't know where, there's Mrs. Shabrinsky. She's like you, ma'am. She's just like you. She's our school piano teacher. I don't like taking piano, though. I'm a boy. I like playing baseball. And so when Mrs. Bartello / Mrs. Shabrinsky walks into our house, I remember thinking, what is she doing here? I know she's not there for me because I can't play the piano anymore. So my mom comes into the kitchen. I look up and I say, Mama, why is she here? And my mother doesn't say a word. Instead, she pushes me back into the living room. She puts me right by the piano. Mrs. Shabrinsky, if you will, I called her Mrs. Bartello, that was my piano teacher, is right next to me. And a little boy with no fingers, just 3 days removed from being released from the hospital, is choosing, like it or not, to walk in light again. I take piano class, and I am not happy at all with my teacher or my mother. And the only time I was more angry with my teacher or my mother was the following Tuesday when she came back. And then the following Tuesday for 5 years of piano class. If you ever come visit me, though, in St. Louis, you'll find a guy who has his own piano and loves to play. Loves to play. So right now, what I want to do is put a big question on the screen and have you think about one person who has inspired you to walk in light, who has encouraged you to become the best version of yourself. I'm going to give you about 2 minutes or so to think about it. And while you think, I think it might be cool if I play the piano for you. Would you guys like me to play the piano? Okay, it's right below the screen right now. Mrs. Shabrinsky, is it okay if I play the piano for a moment in church? Okay. Well, since I'm only up here on the screen and they won't let me out of this thing, I'm going to have to play a video of me playing for you. So I'm going to play a video real quick of me playing a piano. This was the first time I ever played a piano in a public setting. I was speaking at a very large conference. There were 19,000 people in the room. And the lady who planned the meeting had heard I love to play the piano, so she asked if I would play for her family, 19,000 family members. So I said yes. And she said, John, will you play your mother's favorite song? So I said yes. So today, boys and girls, family, friends, Catholics, Christians, leaders, servants, those of us who have all been forgiven, and that is each and every one of us, I'm going to play this song about the amazing grace that we all get to step into each day as we walk in light. Okay, I hope you enjoy it. But as I play it, think of the question, because you'll need an answer for it when we come back. One person who inspires you to become the best version of yourself in order that you may walk in light.
And it always starts slow. Haven't started taking notes, take them now, baby.
In 19,000, in this MGM Grand Theater in Las Vegas, went wild. not for a boy playing the piano, but for a God who loves them, inspired or maybe because of who we are and what they do, and really because of who he is and the life that he offers as we walk forward together with him. So friends, students, question back on the screen. I'd like you to answer it not in your hearts only, but also with the student seated closest to you, which I recognize, dude, that's awkward stuff right here. We're sharing in church. Well, that's what we're going to be doing today. So we're going to be sharing this answer in church. What I'd like you to do is to turn to the nearest student. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We'll practice once together. Repeat after me. Hi. This is awkward for me too. Look at me when I'm talking to you. I love you. There's nothing you can do about that. And one person who inspires me to walk in light and to become the best version of myself is. So my friends, what I ask you to do right now is to look away from the screen, to grab a new friend, to make sure that she is looking at you, to tell her that you love her, there's nothing she can do about it, and then to share a little bit of the example of one person in your life who has inspired you, who has encouraged you, who has loved you well. So I'm going to be quiet for a few moments. You guys are going to fill the church, not with music of a piano, but with music of love. Here we go. Everybody grab a friend. No one's doing this exercise by themselves. Partner up, have some fun.